Hello YouTube, this is Matt Pullen, and we are on chess.com, and I'm going to play my third and last live Blitz game of the day. And as badly as I've been playing my openings, I think I've come out okay, and I hope you get something out of the whole play the game while speaking the thought process out loud stuff. I don't know, people seem to like these. Anyway, seeking one, and I'm playing as white against another 1700. Alright, I've been playing e4 in these games. I think I'll toss in a c4. So we'll play an English with early g3, and we'll see what kind of an opening this develops into. Alright, he's playing c6, so he wants to play d5, so I'm going to preempt this by playing d4. So if the trade happens, my queen comes to d4, he no longer has knight c6 to harass my queen. So I'm going to continue with knight c3 and then make. Oh, right. Well, what do I do here? He is immediately challenging my my queen. I don't think I've ever seen this move before. Can I play bishop e3 here? Queen e5 check. Queen e5 check. Bishop e7. Can I intensify that pressure at all? Queen e5 check. Bishop e7. Knight c3. You can just play c6. I'm spending way too much time on this move. Bishop e3. Takes and bishop takes. I don't know. Bishop e3. Seems okay to me. Just protect the queen. And I don't think he'll trade. Or will he? Anyway, I've never seen this queen b6 move here before, so we are finding out about this together for the very first time. I'm obviously threatening to win a pawn by taking twice on b6, and he's giving check, which I thought he might do. And now do I play knight c3 or knight d2? When in doubt, I'll play, knight c3. If knight c3, queen takes queen, or he castles, and I play queen takes queen, but then he plays bishop takes c3, intermediate move. Does that bother me? I've decided it does not. Of course, he could trade queens and then play c5, but he didn't do that. Can I play my pawn to c5, to sort of stop his pawn from coming to d6 or d5? Actually, that doesn't even do anything, because pawn c5, he can just play pawn to d6. So why don't I just play knight h3 with the idea of coming to knight h4? Or no, that doesn't accomplish anything. That just ties down my knight to ties down my bishop to g2. Can I castle queenside here? Oh no, because if d5 then takes takes, and then I can put my knight on f4. So I think knight h3 is appropriate here. Or what if he just plays pawn to c5? If he plays pawn to c5, he's weakening his d-file so much that I'm not afraid of that move at all. So my idea is to play knight f4 and fight further for the d5 square, as opposed to just putting the knight on f3, which would be pretty standard. So knight f4 also discourages his bishop from coming. But what if he just plays g5 here? Oh, if he plays g5, then knight h5, because the rook on h8 is unprotected. All right, so here, can I play h4 to keep my knight on f4? Yes, I like this idea. I think the knight on f4 is very influential in this position. Also, the bishop on d4 is optically very nice, and if he plays c5 to attack it, then... All right, he's allowing me to play knight takes e6 and open his f-file, and also bring his pawn closer to the center. And I say no thanks, so I'll just play b3 to guard my c-pawn. I could throw in like knight takes e6, and then if takes bishop h3 to try and make fun of his weak pawns. See, he's going to jump into b4, obviously. What if castles, and then my rook is vaguely attacking the d-file? Okay, yes, I like this idea. Queenside castle here. So my idea maybe is to play knight takes e6, and then f takes e6, bishop h3, and then he'll have to advance his pawn to e5, and I drop my bishop back to e3, and then maybe I can try and play to undermine him with c5. All right. Or I can play pawn to f3, pawn to e4, but I want to keep my bishop on g2 in the game. So what if I just played like king b2 to, sort of defend the, c2, a2 squares and sort of wait to see what happens. So it's a sort of a waiting move here. King b2 gets the king off the c file. And then maybe I can double rooks on the d file, rook d2, rook h2. Can I just take on a7 here? Take on a7, can he trap me at all? Pawn to c5, there's bishop b6. Okay, I will grab this pawn. My a file, I think, is sufficiently defended. So he's not going to be playing any, like, rook a8, knight b4 stuff. Can he bring his bishop to the f6 diagonal to, harass my king? Like knight g4, bishop f6. Well, first I'll, land the bishop here, poking his rook on d8. So I assume this rook will move somewhere. Ooh, look, there's knight takes, and then pawn takes, bishop h3. The pawn is pinned to his rook, so he'd have to play king f7. Can I exploit that anyhow? I like that. I don't know. Can I exploit that anyhow? That just looks so good. I have to try this. And then king f7, I think, is forced. And then what do I do here? Pawn g4, pawn g5. Can I play pawn e4 with the idea of pawn e5? Gosh. So many things to throw on the ground. Like that, and even this. So maybe pawn f4, pawn f5 to, try and get him to play e5 and weaken his d5 square. And then once he does that, I can push pawn g5, or pawn g4, pawn g5, and try and overrun his king side. Oh no, because if the pawn comes to g5, he plays knight h5, and then comes to f4. So, can I play pawn e5? Is that working at any point for me? Pawn e5. If he plays pawn takes, I can take, and then, well, now his rook is not guarded, so pawn e5 is even more tempting. Pawn e5, and then he can't take because his rook's hanging. Pawn d5, I can play knight e4, because he still can't take it. So, yes. I'm threatening to take on d6 and then play my rook to e1 and target the e6 square. So I anticipate him not hanging a rook, which he does. And I'll bring my other rook to the d file, and maybe play bishop d8 to pin. Alright, so this is not threatening to do anything. Come to c8 maybe? No, I better double, so I'm threatening rook d takes d6, so my rook is not getting trapped, except that it is because he plays king e8 and unpins it. Oh no, because then I can play bishop takes on e6. So he plays this move instead. Can I play bishop d8 here? Well, first I have to, take and remove the guard. Actually, I probably should have played knight e4 there, so that was not best. And bishop d8, making fun of the pinned bishop on e7. So now I'm threatening to take on e7. So he has to play rook takes, I think, and then takes and takes. And we've simplified into a position where I'm, up a rook, and even though I have less than a minute on my clock, I'm fairly confident that I can, do well and play a good game here. So his knight's got to come to c5, and then I've got to bring my king over to d3 to limit the squares that his knight has. And if he brings his knight too far over to the king side, I'm just going to bring my rook over to the... Oh, he's going to play knight d4. Shoot. Let's stop that. Is he going to play to trap my rook? Apparently not. So I'll just push this pawn here to take away c5 square. And I want to bring my king up cautiously though. Push, check, and then his king comes forward. No, I would rather be bringing my king forward. So there is an increment, so I feel fairly, confident he's not gonna. If I can, get some kind of a further simplification, then I think we'll be doing all right here. Can I? How about if I just take this and then play f3? That's simple. Simple is good. So his king, what is his king doing here? I think I'll just pin his knight, and then I'm gonna take his knight and play knight takes on f. So sacrificing exchange to simplify the position. Except his king has now come in to cause me problems on. Shoot, I just lost the tempo because he takes on c4. That was dumb. That was really dumb. Alright, now I will take there. And I will use my knight to stop this pawn from getting any further out of hand. And I'm just going to stop his king from penetrating anywhere at all. If he brings the king to h5, I'm going to play. Alright, so now I'll just play the knight to f4. So now he has to either bring his king further away or sacrifice his pawn. So now I'll just come and I'll kick this pawn. And then there's no way that he can prevent me from Alright. With this queen and this knight, I have to be careful not to stalemate him. I'm giving him the a5 square, so it's not going to be stalemate. They can push the pawn. I'm going to pin the pawn. Again, I'm giving him a5, so it's not stalemate. If he comes to a3, then queen b3 is mate, so he has to come to a5. And when he comes to a5, I'll play queen to b3, except that he didn't do that. He's going to let me checkmate him. So, yeah, he wants a rematch, so I'll accept that. So we're playing another live Blitz game. He plays e4. We're going Sicilian again. Oh, he plays this. I'll play g6, and we'll play a sort of a sniper type situation. Oh, maybe I could play d5 and we get the same type of position as in last game, except now I have black pieces. So it's the same. It's a similar type of position. Now I'm gonna take and then play bishop g4 to already threatening to take on f3 maybe because his knight is protecting his d4 pawn. And now I'm going to bring my knight to h6 and f5 to pressure his d4. So really, it's the very similar type of opening as the last game. He could be playing like bishop b5 or queen b3 to try to exploit the fact that this queen bishop has left the queen side. So, but I could just calmly play rook b8, I think. All right, so here I can play knight h6, or I can preemptively take on f3. Knight h6, he has knight g5. So maybe it's best for me to play like e6 or something, or take on f3. I think I'll play e6 here. Maybe bring the knight to h6 or e7 and then out to f5. And then, or I can just take here. And then if he plays bishop takes, there's queen to h4 check to annoy him. And now, once his king moves, I think I will be playing pawn to h5 in order to stop him from ever putting a pawn on g4. And after pawn h5, I will retreat the queen and then play knight h6, knight f5 to sort of get a grip on the dark squares. Alright, can I exploit the fact that, see, if I play knight e7, he's got to play pawn g4. I don't want that happening, so I'll play pawn h5 to, clamp down on the g4 square. Except, wait, can he play pawn g4 and then takes because his bishop is protecting his rook? Well, I guess that's not fatal to me. But if he plays pawn g4, I don't have to take, but then why did I play pawn h5? Anyway, I just contradicted myself, kind of. Queen e7 with the idea maybe coming out to b4, and also, maybe preparing pawn to h4 to lock down his, lock down his g4 break permanently, because of the en passant possibility on g3. So pawn h4, then knight h6, knight h5. Those are moves I want to play. Can I play knight h6 first? Takes. No, I better play the h4 first to stop him from ever establishing a pawn on g4. Alright, he's going to play his knight to b5 and then to d6. And if I play a6, he'll play knight a4. So, well, I pretty much have to stop him from playing. Or, can I play bishop f8, and then when he plays knight b5, I just play queen d7? Sure. Because now the d6 square is not such a big deal if I can, have bishop capturing the knight that comes to d6. So now I'll bring the knight to h6 and then to f5. He's going to play pawn to b4. That looks like an aggressive possibility. Or maybe queen a4 first. Regardless, I think I have to be playing queen d7 in order to get a defender on that diagonal. So again, this knight coming to f5 will carry the threat of knight g3 check, but I have to make sure that my queen side is adequately defended. Also, if he brings his queen out of play, then when I play knight f5, I might be hitting the d4. So here, I think I have to play queen d7 in order to oppose, his queen, because that pin is just bad news if left alone for too long. In fact, he might have been threatening to do something like knight sack on d5. All right, I'll bring the knight in to threaten d4. And here I want to play bishop e7 with the idea of maybe bringing king f8, king g7, and getting the king the heck out of there. If he pushes the pawn to b5, I need to have a place to go with my knight. All right, can I take on e3? Does that do anything for me? He'll have to king take. Now his d4 pawn is weak, but I can't attack it. Can I play bishop takes, king takes, and bishop h6? No, because then I need something to prevent his knight from coming to b5 and d6. So I'll just play a developing move, bishop e7. And this allows my king to escape any pressure. Alright, where can I bring this? I forgot to plan a place for this knight to go, b8 or d8. I think b8, because on b8 it just takes my rook out of the game, maybe gives me a weak square on c8, so I think I have to go d8 with this piece. And then maybe pawn b6, knight b7. Ooh, this is nice. So I can't take. I can take on a4, and then take on b6, and then take on a3. So that is convenient for me. And now his e3 is hanging. So tactically, this guy is, I think, not that strong. But he does have his opening system down, which is more than I can say about myself at this point. Yeah, this is just outright winning a piece. All right, do I take with rook or knight? I think I take rook with rook. And then, or I can postpone the decision by playing bishop d4 check. I like this idea. So where does this king go here? Either way, I'm going to take on e3 next. See, if he plays... see, I get to take on e3 with check, because if he brings his king to e1 or e2, I take with rook. If he brings his king to d2... oh, wait, he's talking to me. Lucky loser, you know how to win now. And I say, yes, question mark. I don't know what the purpose of this comment is. Alright, so now I'm going to play rook to c3, cutting off his rook from the back rank where he was going to penetrate into the position. If he takes, I take with bishop and then d4 as a target. Simple playing with the phone. I'm just, nope. Alright, so we're throwing check here. And then we're going to play bishop c3 with the idea of bishop d4. Or maybe bishop, sure. He can't defend d4 anyway, can he? So, already, I don't see any significant counter threats for him. Alright, so I will take here. And then I'll just take there. Not sure why he's doing this. And then knight d3, threatening the g2 and also his knight, so he has to take, and I take with bishop. Well, I guess he could check me, and that doesn't appear to do anything, because I'm coming to f8 and g7. So I'm threatening rook takes g2 mate. Of course he sees this, and he's going to do something about it. And one idea is to play knight to f5, knight to g3, and try and checkmate him. See, this is a discovered attack on his rook, so he's got to move his rook again. And then, I don't know, I'm just going to play a waiting move here. King g7. So my knight is covering my pawn on b7. My knight is covering my bishop on d4. He doesn't seem to have any dangerous tactics with this knight on f6, so I'll just leave it there. And how am I actually going to checkmate his king? Maybe I'll play... see, I want to prevent his rooks from getting counterplay. So here, I can play rook, knight to... I'm going to play knight e6, giving up my b7 pawn, with the idea of taking on f4 and bringing another knight closer to his king. Alright. So, I'm threatening to take on g2, and I'm not sure what he does about this. So yes, that was that was a live Blitz game. Thank you, YouTube, for watching, and have a nice day.